Right now, what most of the school districts are doing is looking at really 3 different ways to educate their children. And in many cases, they may be implementing all 3. So they're really identifying face-to-face opportunities, but face-to-face opportunities with social distancing. But they also recognize that even if they're able to start school face-to-face, that it's likely there'll be interruptions in school. It's likely that there will be positive cases, and so there might be classes or even campuses that have to shut down for a period of time to make sure that folks have quarantined and that they don't end up expanding on that. So I know that you probably wish that I had the answer, but the answer really is that the school districts are working very, very hard to create a variety of options. Some of the school districts are putting days at the end of the school year in case they have to close to give some additional instructional time for their students. The school districts are trying to be as creative as possible, but also to do what their own communities want. One of the huge challenges has been food insecurity. Many of our children in the region eat sometimes 3 meals a day at school, and so many of those children were not accessing the meals that the schools had available. We had far, far less participation, even though the schools had the food available, but it was hard for parents to get to it. Obviously, when their children are in school, they go to school and they're able to eat. In this situation, the parents were in a position where they had to go and get food, or in many cases, school districts took buses into communities and distributed food that way. But I think the issue of food insecurity is a way that the churches could help. I know I am proud to be a board member of Sci-Hope in the Cypress Fairbanks School District, in the backpack program, the food backpack program that they do. And I'm sure many of you do the very same thing. That is going to become even more critical as we have families that have lost jobs and that sort of thing. So I think helping with whatever way you can, whether it's partnering with the food bank or partnering with the school district to help with food insecurity. That, I think, is one of the things that school districts are really concerned about. This issue of the digital divide is another thing that I think churches could help school districts with. There is such a disparity, such inequities in what our children have available to them in terms of being able to do school at home. Maybe churches could open up their facilities, their churches, to be a place where kids could come and do homework and do work. You have Wi-Fi in your churches close to you, and you have space. And so I think that anything that you can do to support the diminishing of that divide and therefore the instructional support of children, I think is critical, because that divide, we had inequities in our schools before COVID. Those inequities have just been exacerbated. And not because the teachers weren't working hard, nor because the parents didn't care. It's just the circumstances were such that divide has gotten so much greater. Also, many of you I know have mentorship programs. And I think that's going to be an issue that we've got to kind of sift through, because depending upon what the rules are for social distancing and the rules related to health and safety for the children, I can't tell you right now what the schools are going to do. During the summer, they were told there should be no guests who come into the schools. And by guests, that even meant parents, that unless the parent was there for a parent meeting, that they didn't want volunteers in the schools. Now, whether or not that's going to extend into the school year, I think a lot of that will just depend upon what the rate of infection is and that sort of thing. And then I think that I should have started with the most important thing, and that is that I think that you can pray for the schools. I know that was always meaningful to me when the churches let us know that they were praying for the school district and for the teachers and the children and the parents. I think that helping to identify also those frontline heroes, raising them up and elevating them and making it public that you recognize what they have done during this pandemic. If you could actually have some overtly organized and public supports when school starts back to recognize those heroes who are educators, I think that is something that I think would be very helpful.